welcome to Sensible Secondhand Classics, the show where we look at a car that is over 15 years old that you could buy for a budget of between £1,000 and £5,000. This is a 1964 Austin 1100 and it's it's amazing. So the 1100 was launched in 1962, initially just as a Morris. The Austin version like this came along in 1963. All variants of the ADO16 design used the BMC A series engine, transmission in sump layout, and had hydroelastic suspension. The car was made actually until 1974, although a lot of the myriad variants of it have been discontinued by then. This is called a Mark 1. These were made until 1967, and up until then there were only two engine options really. This 1098cc engine with 48 horsepower, and then there was a twin carb version which is on the MG and the Riley variants with 55 horsepower. Later on, when the 1300 models came out in 1967, there was a single carb version which produced 58 horsepower, and then a twin carb version with 65 horsepower. The most powerful ADO16 though, at least in this country, developed 70 horsepower. That's in cars like the Austin 1300 GT. These were made actually all over the world. They're made in all sorts of different places, such as South Africa and Italy and Spain and all kinds of things under marks like Innocenti. I think this car is just absolutely amazing. I'm really enjoying driving this. It's just superb. It's absolutely brilliant. It makes me feel very happy driving this. Got no servo on the brakes, but it doesn't seem to matter. And also I've got no synchromesh on first. And in a Morris Minor you kind of notice that a lot more than you do with this. I don't seem to notice that so much in this. I don't know why. Driving schools of course used these along with Triumph Heralds back in the 60s. And this car's just got a very sort of friendly character to it. It's not demanding or anything like that. It has a ride that's a little bit further than I was expecting, similar to a Maxi, which of course is, I suppose in a way, just a very big version of one of these. But it's still just ever so charming. I'm going to say that word a lot in this review. It's really charming. I just can't get over how much it's just so sort of agreeable to drive and how easy it is. The steering's a little bit on the heavy side. You couldn't get power steering in one of these, but the visibility is excellent. The wheels at a very peculiar angle as well, but that's no problem. I mean, if you're used to a Mini, then that's just what you have. Much as I might be tempted to reenact that scene in Fawlty Towers, we're not going to do that today, viewers, because this beautiful 1964 Austin 1100 does not merit anything like that. This is Arabian grey. It's not actually white. I don't know why I parked so far away from the curb. It's probably because I'm used to driving cars that are far wider than this. The 1100 or ADO16, if you want to refer to the derivatives of all these cars, or rather all the derivatives of these cars, was one of the best-selling cars in this country in the 60s. In fact, it was the best-selling car for about 10 years, I think. And there were various versions of this made in other parts of the world too. In this country, they were made by Austin, Morris, MG, Riley, Wolseley and Van den Pla. And the first one launched was the Morris in 1962. The last two in production were the Austin and the Van den Pla badge variants in 1974. The history of these cars is so complicated that I would be here for a couple of hours if I, went over the whole lot. So we're not going to do all of that. I'm sure if you go to the ADO16.info website, it will tell you more. But this is quite an early car. The Austin badge version started in 1963. This is a December 1964 car. And it was originally actually sold in Bromley, which is in Greater London. Although it's a Kent plate, because I think Bromley was actually in Kent in 1964. Owned by Mr. Alan Webmore with his little Instagram there. If you want to see more of this and some of his other cars, we're doing a lot of his today. Let's have a look in the boot. Nice kind of self-supporting action there. It's actually a bit bigger than I thought for one of these cars. There's no hatchback on this, although in Australia they decided that they wanted to build a car called the Nomad, which was based on one of these, but with the hatchback from the Maxi in the early 70s. There's no folding seats or anything like that. Just lots and lots and lots of period charm. No reversing lights, no fog lights. Not very much of anything, just style. So the car was designed by Alec Issigonis, but styled by Pininfarina, if that makes sense. I don't know how to sort of kind of say it any more than that. Just unbelievably charming. You can see his influence straight away in this, but it does feel like a larger Mini, and the mechanical package is quite similar to the Minis that were fitted with hydroelastic suspension. Which were made sort of in the middle 60s. The early ones and then the later ones were not, but there was a time when they were fitted with that type of suspension, which this has. So very sort of thin rimmed steering wheel, slightly offset driving position. The steering wheel's over to the left like the pedals are, and just a strip speedo. That's all you get, and you can see this little thing here moves along here. It's not even really a needle. Choke levers there, ignition's in the middle, some sort of warning lights. There's a full beam. I think the dip switch is actually on the floor, it's down there. So yes, fortunately it's not actually raining. I don't need the lights today, otherwise I'd be sort of fiddling with various switches and seeing what they did. That radio, I think is slightly later, I don't actually know. But we've got a little aux in, sort of put in there. Radio feels excellent. I'll just also while I shut the door actually. As you can see, we've got this parcel shelf that sort of runs the full length of the dash. Brilliant. No glove box or anything, because you don't really need one. 4-speed manual on this. There was an automatic available, of course, and just a normal handbrake. There's the indicator stalk. It flashes in the end of there. We've got little ADO16s there. Isn't that nice? This interior is virtually all original as well. It's unbelievable how nice this interior is, considering it lived in the garage, I think, from 1976 until a few years ago when Alan and his father bought this car. Recognise the interior door handles from the Mini to get out, obviously. And this famous Austin steering wheel, when we might have actually at this time made some of the best cars in the world, certainly from a technical point of view, for like an affordable family car. Yeah, just really brilliant, really charming. Let's have a look in the back. So this is the 4-door model. There was also a 2-door. I've got aftermarket seatbelts in the back because that's just a sensible idea. These seatbelts actually were an option when the car was new. I can't say they're like my favourite seatbelts ever. I don't really like fixed seatbelts, but I'm grateful to whoever ordered this car brand new that they're there, because you didn't initially need to fit seatbelts in a car until 1965. So I've just put my foot in here. Once again, goodness me, there's a lot of room in here. Wow. It's a tiny little car. I mean, it's quite narrow and everything. You don't really want to put 3 adults in the back of here, but 2, no problem. The driving position is actually quite comfortable like that. It's far more comfortable than like a Mini, for me personally anyway. You can see the heater controls are down there. It's just this really charming little light there, and just plain vinyl door cards, vinyl seating. You know, this isn't a Van den Plas, so you don't get the leather or anything like that, and you don't get a rev counter clearly, like you would do in something like a Riley. But it's just wonderful. Right, let's have a look under the bonnet, shall we? So this is the 1098cc A-series engine, which develops 48 horsepower. It's a similar A-series to the one that was in the Morris Minor at this time, which, when the 1100 came out in 1962, also had its capacity upped and the power upped at the same time. So the Morris Minor that you would have seen on Sensible Secondhand Classics does have the same engine, but not the same gearbox at all. Transmission in sump, of course, with this. The green colour is the right colour for the A-series engine at this time. Just a single carburettor on this. This is the least powerful of all the ADO16 variants. I think we might have an electronic ignition in here, which obviously helps a bit. Radiators on the side there. Much better in terms of access for the Mini, but very similar mechanically in many ways to those hydroelastic Minis. But just a bit easier to work on, I think. I love this wavy grille and the overriders and things like that. This might be a deluxe actually. I forgot to ask Alan if it was, but certainly with the overriders and these little wing mirrors and the overtaking mirror, it just looks just so typical of this period. And there we go. It's got the little plaque there, proudly made in Birmingham. Some I think Morris's were made in Birmingham as well, but actually they were mainly made at Cowley. We'll go over the kind of sort of all these variants where they were made a little bit later, because I need to go for another drive view because I'm enjoying myself too much. Lloyd Consulting stickers, t-shirts and mugs are available by clicking the link to the Google form in the video description below. The variants of these cars that I prefer personally are things like the Riley Kestrel, or latest the Riley 1300, and the Van den Plas Princess that was available, you know, in 1100 and 1300cc guises. In the Riley you got a rev counter, which is nice. I think that was for all the Rileys. I think the early MGs you didn't get one. And Van den Plas is just lovely interior and the wooden picnic tables and things like that. But even this Austin variant, I should say, the Austin variant, little strip speedo and just really nice basic interior, very much along the sort of lines of kind of what Alec Issigonis imagined that somebody who had a family car should have in terms of equipment, i.e. not very much, but just a lot of kind of basic functionality and just a car that just got on with the job. And certainly that's what this does. Let's learn a look at some more detailed information on the ADO16s. So in this country it was made as the Austin 1300, 1100 and 1300 GT, same with the Morris MG 1100, 1300, the Riley Kestrel, the Kestrel 1300, and there's just for 1300, or sometimes I think the Kestrel 1275 for some reason. Exactly the same with the Van den Plas Princess, 1100, 1300, sometimes there's a Princess 1275, the Wolseley 1100 and 1300, and sometimes the 1275. I don't know why that is. I couldn't find out why they'd be called both the 1300 and the 1275 at various times. From 1966, the car had the Countryman or Traveller Estate. The Countryman was the Austin version, like the one you see at Fawlty Towers, and the Traveller was the Morris version. So just before the Mark II came out, they brought those out. In other parts of the world, it was known as the Austin 1155, the Austin America, the Austin Apache, the Austin Deluxe with no final E, the Gilder, and the Victoria. Victoria and the Apache were kind of slightly modified versions in the 70s, which updated the design a little bit. The Innocenti was known as Austin I4, the Austin I4S, the Morris IM3 and IM3S, and then just the Innocenti IS. Under the MG, guys, it was sold as the Princess, the Sports Sedan, the 1100S, and the MGS 1300. Morris, the 1155, the 1100S, the Marina, yes, I think it was in Denmark, and the Marina GT. Wolseley, the 1155, and the Wesp. And they made about, I think it was 2.5 million of these. From 1967, when the Mark II version came out, you get synchromesh in all 4 gears. This one doesn't have it because it's a Mark I. And then 71, they updated it to the Mark III, where they started doing things like dropping the Morris badge versions. Not all of them, I don't think, but some of them, because the Marina was then in production. So, viewers, should you consider an ADO16 as a sensible second-hand classic for your hard-earned budget of between £1,000 and £5,000? Well, yes, the club of these are very good. I mean, obviously, there's rust. This car, unfortunately, wasn't quite restored properly in about 2014, so there's little bits of rust coming through on this, which is a real shame. So it's going to be done again, but it looks fantastic as it is. Obviously, the club is there if you need spares, if you need help. They're quite simple. These, obviously, you can get the hydroelastic suspension sorted out with various companies. One of them run by a chap called Mr. Kennedy, who is quite well known in these circles. And just enjoy the absolute nostalgia of this quintessential 60s classic. Anyway, thank you ever so much indeed once again for watching this episode of Sensible Secondhand Classics. Please don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like this video, leave a comment below, and we shall see you again soon for more nostalgic but reasonably priced motoring. 2, 3, 4.